Hi. How you doing? I was gonna say good morning, but I don't know what time it is when you're watching. But hi, that works anytime. Welcome to another scintillating edition of Six Questions with Dan and Michelle. Myself being Dan, and this being right here, Michelle. How you doing, Michelle?
Huh?
How you doing,
Oh, I'm
Michelle?
doing fantastic. How are you,
Okay,
Dan?
I probably this was my fault because I didn't really phrase it as a question.
hmm
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Okay, good. Glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
How are you doing?
And although I'm doing I'm doing scintillatingly spectacular because we have a scintillatingly spectacular guest right down here, and that is our good friend, Brendan Walsh. How you doing, Brendan?
Great. I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous and trepidatious because there's going to be questions that I don't know are coming my way. So I am well
Yes.
caffeinated, well hydrated, and ready to go.
Perfect.
Brendan Brendan is a client, his company Catalyst Solutions Group. We do some work for them. We are the last people he should be nervous around. Brendan hobnobs with the influential people all around town, and it's just little me and Michelle right here. But we're going to get to know Brendan. Brendan has some very interesting angles to him that we've enjoyed getting to know. So you're going to get to know them in the next few minutes. So I think without ado, because I do like to speak French with the rolling R's, without ado, we will jump now into those very six questions. Brandon, I want to start by just having you tell us a little bit about your company and what it does. And the interesting thing is your primary focus is in helping people who have wealth to transfer it to others, to ensuing generations, and so forth. My primary question about that is why is that so darn complicated?
That's a really good question. Why is it complicated? It's complicated because every family, every business is different, right? Whether you're dealing with a very wealthy family to a family of modest means to a business owner to, I mean, it all, it's part of the fun and excitement of what we do is every client or potential client we meet with is a blank slate where we get to ask a lot of questions and find out about them, what motivates them, their values, what's most important to them, what their visions are for the future, and so that we can help transfer what they built, right? So whether it's if they've amassed a certain amount of wealth or if they've built a successful business or they're still in the process of building that and they want to protect it for their kids, their spouse, whomever. Um, it's never simple because we're humans and we're complicated and everyone has different feelings and histories about money and everyone's got what we find unfortunately with a lot of families and businesses, especially when you get into transferring wealth or business succession or just taking care of a family is we don't talk about money and we don't talk about the plans of the future. I think we make a lot of assumptions. I think parents make a lot of assumptions around what their kids want or where they're going to go or what they're going to
Mhm.
do. We see this a lot with business owners where they assume their children are going to come into the business or they assume they're not going to come into the business, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I had this recently where I just assumed my children would have no interest in getting into our business. And my wife was talking to our eldest the other day and said she's interested in financial services and insurance. And who knew? But we
Oh,
don't do those
oh,
things.
Wow.
okay. We'll have to move some things around
I
then.
mean, she's 16, so lots of time left. But that's a long-winded answer to your question is it's complicated because we are complicated and every situation is different. And you might have families where spouses have been married a couple times with different children, and so that makes it complicated. Or it might be a business where you might have a second or third generation where some family members are involved in the business and some aren't. So that makes that complicated. And do we need to make things equal? Do we need to take care of people that are out of the business versus the ones that are in the business? So there's a lot of moving parts that we need to navigate.
Yeah, it's a really interesting answer you give because when I asked the question, my mind was more about like laws that make it complicated, state taxes and so forth. And it didn't even really occur to me that a lot of the complications are just the differences in people's situations. But I imagine you've seen almost every potential scenario there is to see over the years you've been doing this.
And there's more that I haven't, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 18 years now, which is wild. And I'm sure there are scenarios that I have yet to run into. But yes, when you add in taxes and estate tax law and business law and corporate law, which we are neither attorneys or accountants, so we can't, we can't talk about that in exquisite detail. But yeah, those add different levels of complications where we bring in the experts who know those better than us.
Yes, I will add some tiny type to the bottom of the screen,
Yes.
emphasizing that
A
disclaimer.
dotted line of disclosures going along the bottom of the screen.
Unless I don't feel like it, which is highly likely.
Sure.
So, Brendan, you recently had the opportunity to sing Mozart with your youngest daughter. Can you tell us about that?
Oh gosh, I would love to.
Let's
So,
do it.
some people know this about me, some don't, but I am technically a classically trained singer. So I went to DePaul University for undergrad to study vocal performance. I
Wow.
started singing when I was 8 years old. My mom asked me if I wanted to sing in an Episcopal church choir at Christ Church in Grosse Pointe, which I'm going to throw a plug in that if any families have kids who love to sing, it's the best place to get started. My children all started singing in that choir, but it's where I got involved in music and developed a passion for it to the point where I chose my high school because of their music program and I ended up at DePaul University. So after I graduated, I took about a year off and then I got involved when we were in DC, lived in Washington, DC area with some community and semi-professional and professional theater. And then got married, had kids, started a business, and took about 20 years off. And last year, I've been asked year over year. So when we moved back to Grosse Pointe, we rejoined Christ Church, which has this amazing music program. We got our children involved in it when they were that age. And I've been asked to sing in this chorale. And I just always said no because we had children's activities. I coached hockey, I played hockey, I've got all of these different things, and it would just didn't fit. Well, in the last year, I stopped coaching hockey because my son's team had a fully professional staff, which opened up some time in my schedule, and I was able to join the chorale. And we did an amazing piece of music in the fall by a composer named Ethel Smythe. And then when I looked at the lineup of music for the year, the Scola, which is a fully professional choir, was doing the Mozart Requiem. And I walked up to the director and said, "What do I need to do to be able to sing in the Mozart?" Because it has been one of my favorite pieces of music since I was very little. I remember buying the CD and I've
Oh
never
my
had the
gosh.
chance to sing it. And so he said, if you can get one of your children who are already is in the choir to sing it with you, then that's your price of entry. So I got
Uh-oh.
to sing the Mozart Requiem with full orchestra, and it was when we started rehearsing, like the very first rehearsal, um, I'm singing it and I was starting to get emotional. I'm like, I can't believe I'm singing this. Like this is I've listened to this a million, hundreds, if not thousands of times. So to be able to
One
sing
of, one
it,
of those sort of
especially with
life
my
fulfillment
daughter,
moments.
was
Yeah.
particularly cool. What's that?
One of those sort of life fulfillment moments.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, and I
Did
got to
your
do it with my daughter, which was
yeah,
even.
did
I
and
wish
did
my
she enjoy the experience as well?
uh
Oh
ish.
no.
It's one of those things that I was really fortunate in that my parents dragged me to a lot of really cool arts when I was younger and that I didn't appreciate at the time. That looking back now, I'm so grateful for what they exposed me to. But I mean, I think that's one of those for her where she'll be like, you know, she'll look I hope she looks back when she's older and say that was a really great experience that I got to have. And I don't even have to be a part of her narrative, just the fact that she got to sing this amazing
Yeah.
piece of music. So I wish my two eldest ones were interested, but they had no interest, but
Now,
that's okay.
how old were you when you bought the CD? Do you remember?
I was probably in high school, maybe.
Okay.
So my dad was a season ticket holder to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, so I was instilled with a love for classical music at a young age. I
Mhm.
remember him taking me to Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto, and I remember just being so moved by that piece of music. It was pretty cool, pretty
So
special.
were you driving in high school? I know some people were, some people were
Was I
not.
driving like as
Yeah.
a car? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Like
Yeah.
that was
Okay.
our independence. Of course I
No,
was driving.
Okay, I
I
know
got
some
my
people did, some
I got
people
my
so So were you like jamming out to the CD while driving to
Oh
school?
yeah, if you looked at my C if you I still have my CDs. I transferred them to a big book and I've kept them because I
Oh
invested
yeah.
so much in my music collection,
Mhm.
much to my wife's chagrin. I still hold on to it, but it is quite eclectic and but
Yeah.
classical music is part of it. So yeah, for
Oh,
sure. Oh yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
there's
Yeah,
happy
a
so
for you.
you'd have me jamming out to classical one day and then Dave Matthews the other day, or
Awesome.
classic rock the other, a little Aerosmith or AC/DC. Yeah, I was all over the place.
All right,
just a
that's
bit of an
hilarious.
aside, but there's this generational defining conversation going on here because when Brendan was in high school, it was like, get me my license and get me a CD I can jam out to. When
Right.
I was in high school, what the heck is a CD? And whereas a lot of people that are closer to Michelle's age, when they got to be like 16, they were like, why would I want to have a driver's license?
I've got this. What do I need? What do I need what do I need a car for?
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not have that. That was- Phones were still not a thing, really.
I'm right on the cusp of you had a car with a tape deck, let alone a
Oh
CD
yeah.
player, right?
Oh,
Like
oh, for
having the
sure.
Tape
CD
deck.
player was a big deal.
Yes.
You had the tape deck and then you had the cord that went into the tape deck that
That
you
you
plugged
connected
into
to your
your.
Discman so you could play your CD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan, you are a very active member of the Detroit Athletic Club. And question about that, because I think a lot of people around here perceive the DAC to be something that, like, even if they could afford it, it's like, it's kind of not accessible to that many people. Um, Tell me something about membership in the DAC that would surprise a lot of people.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Probably, I mean, to your point, I'd start with that it's not, it's not this place for, the elite in a walled off community where they're not connecting with the rest of the city, right? I
Okay.
mean, you now don't get me wrong, right? Like there's executives of, the automotive industry that are members of the DAC, but, there's also, some of my closest friends are folks that own electrical companies or
Mm,
manufacturing companies or they're employees, they're attorneys, they're accountants, they're folks who work around town. And when we moved back from the DC area and I moved back to work with my dad, and my dad was not adamant about a lot, but one of them was that I was going to join the DAC and that I was going to start bowling. That was those were the those were the two things. So I joined the DAC. I was a member before we had a house. And I think what people would be surprised with, it's a very down to earth place. I was a member of a private club in Washington, D.C. We joined because it was cheaper to join as junior members than it was to pay the room fee to have our wedding reception. And in being a member of the Detroit Athletic Club for an hour, I either met or was introduced to more people than I was in 6 years of this other club in Washington, D.C.
okay.
It's just
Wow.
open, kind, friendly, welcoming. The staff is the secret sauce. The folks that work there are awesome. I mean, truly, I spend a lot. I spend a lot of. I'm pretty much there every day. And it's my second family. And I don't just mean the membership. I mean the staff and everyone who works there. They're the best. And there's just so much cool stuff with different people involved in different nonprofits and businesses and sports organizations. I mean,
Mm.
there's so much connection to the community and so much interest in the city and giving back and investing in the city and in the community and the broader, greater Metro Detroit area that it's a very cool place. And
You
it's
know,
gorgeous.
I've reported on it several times for D-Business, like the different renovations and so forth. And one association that I would have not expected with the DAC, and you just said it actually, DAC and bowling, like how closely connected those two things are. I don't think most people would think that was true.
It is the
Sure.
large, I'm going to get this wrong, but and my friends of the DAC, forgive me. I'm fairly certain it's the largest private amateur bowling league in the country. There's anywhere
Mm.
between 800 to 1,000 bowlers. They're both men's leagues, women's leagues, mixed leagues, and children's leagues, youth leagues. So it's they've been bowling for well over 100 years at the DAC. They do an interclub competition with a group from Cleveland every year. There's folks that
And
bowl
haven't they
there.
been doing that for like 100 years or something? That thing
Yeah,
with Cleveland?
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's the season just wrapped up. They had their end of the year banquet. It's a neat community. That's one of the fun things about the DC. There's all these clubs within the clubs. So if there's something you're interested in, there's usually an organization for it. And I was just talking to a friend who's interested in something that's not there, and you can start a new club within the club. So
What was the name of your bowling team? Did you have a name?
so I'm the chairman of my league, and we pick different team names every year. And this year it was college mascots. So ours were the Wichita State Shockers.
So each team had a college mascot name. And you
Correct.
guys
So
picked the
every
first one.
league picks a different theme for their team names every year.
Because
So
what I was envisioning was you guys dressed up as the college mascots and
I was
played.
thinking that too,
I
actually.
wanted that to be true.
Yeah.
that would be awesome. No, so yeah, so every league has a different theme. So they might be movie titles, or they might be,
Okay.
you know, car brands or stuff like that. So she's
I,
looking
my
forward to
my mom used to have a bowling league when I was younger, and I remember her team name was Nine is Good. Nine
it.
is good.
That's a really good, that's a really
Yeah.
good name. That's a really good name.
All right, Brendan, you recently joined the board of the Exodus Road. So what is that, and why did you decide to be a part of it?
So the Exodus Road. So I am a very new board member. I think it's been 3 months. So the Exodus Road is an organization whose purpose is to combat human trafficking around the world. And they do it in three different ways. One is they put together sting operations to free people from human trafficking and the sex trade around the world. They do work in Southeast Asia and South America, and they're working on expanding that. The second is online awareness, so particularly through social media. So making sure that people know how people can get groomed, how they're approached, and how to prevent that and have awareness around it. And the third is um, what they refer to often as aftercare, where there's for folks that have been in the sex trade or have been trafficked, there is a propensity for them to get back into it or fall back into it, unfortunately. So it's providing resources for them so that they don't end up back there. So I just joined the board. Why did I join the board? I have two very dear friends through an association I'm a part of called the $1 Million Roundtable who are on that board. And one is the current chair. And my friend Ted asked me if I was interested, and I was very interested, but I'm getting to the stage in life where I'm a one in, one out with activities. So I had to say no to something. And so there was a board that I'd been on for 6 years where I decided it was time to, and my term had ended, and it coincided well with being able to join up with the Exodus Road, which I'm really, really excited about.
So how, I mean, you mentioned a lot of places that they're in. I'm assuming they're also doing stuff here in America as well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and to what level I couldn't tell you. So,
Mhm. Yeah, you were a very new board member.
I am a newbie, and I don't want to
Like
speak out of
that.
turn. So,
Yeah, that is a great cause though. Unfortunately, I do know people who have been trafficked, and I know how difficult it is for the aftercare. So God bless you guys for doing this
thanks.
work.
Yeah, it's important work. I'm feel very fortunate to be a part of it, and I'm really excited to learn more and get out to their headquarters in Colorado Springs and see the kind of situation room that they have where they, run everything. So.
Awesome.
Brendan, another DAC related question, but more specific. You and your team were the Edge champions this year. But I want to know about this 2 hour event called the Gauntlet.
Oh
What
yeah.
do you have to do?
So the gauntlet, so the Edge, so broadly speaking, so the Edge is a 9 week long team fitness competition.
Okay.
It has two different levels, what they call Beyond the Edge and To the Edge. One's a little bit more intense and competitive than the other. So the To the Edge is focused more on just general health and getting stronger and healthier, whereas the Beyond the Edge is for us crazy people that are a little bit more competitive and wanted to take it to a different level. So the Edge is really fun. It scratches a lot of itches for me because it gets you in really good shape. I'm a big external accountability person, so to have a team that's expecting me to do something is very helpful for me to get out of bed in the morning and go work out. But the gauntlet is the end of everything. So it is a 2 hour long. So our participation in it was probably an hour. It's
Okay.
three different 12-minute chunks with a 15-minute break in between. And so for 12 minutes, you're going nonstop at these workouts, head to head against another team. So, for example, in the first section, so we're a team of 10. We were missing one person, so we were down to nine. We had three people on a rower, and we had to row as far as possible in that 12-minute period, while the rest of the team had to do some strength competition with a weighted sandbag that they had to either run across the gym or push across the gym, but then they added like med ball slams into it, or they might have to do sit-ups at the end of it. So it was all to try to finish that or to do it as quickly as possible. So that's just round one. So you do that for
So
the
which
first.
one did you do? Were you the
I
rower?
rode, I
Okay.
rode in the first round. The second round was we had three people do a ski erg, which is kind of like a standing rower, but it's like cross country skiing where you're doing that kind of motion with
Okay.
resistance.
Mhm.
And then we did a series of strength exercises. One was a surrender with 20-pound weights. So you start on your knees and then you stand up, do a curl, and then press. You had to do that, I think, 10 times. Then you had to do 10 squat thrusts with a 45-pound plate. Then you had to do 10 over the shoulders with a 40-pound sandball that doesn't bounce. So you just toss it over and you have to pick it up. Then there were sit-ups and then there were renegade rows. And
Okay.
the rest of us did that, but they didn't count the reps until the last person started. So you would go through and it was all about how many you got. So yeah. So and I forget some of the details of the third one, but that's the kind of craziness. But
So
super
so
fun.
9 weeks of training for this, and then you just go out.
Every week has its own competition. So one week is strength focused, one week is
Okay.
cardio focused. And so you have different challenges and competitions every week. So we actually were in the lead going into the gauntlet, and we were in enough of a lead that we didn't have to necessarily win the gauntlet to win the edge. But the team that was in second, we ended up tying evenly for all of the competitions. So we
Oh
ended up
wow.
winning it all. But it's fun. It's
That's
crazy. It's a little nutty, but when I first started doing it, it helped me get into what I like to think is the best shape of my life. So I'm really grateful for the DAC for doing it.
nice job.
Afterward, did they have a giant buffet for everyone?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
good.
this is the best. This is the most important
oh yeah.
part.
So they have
Yeah.
food up on the balcony and
Mm.
recovery drinks, and they had the DAC has this amazing recovery center. So they had like leg compression sleeves, and they had some
Oh,
recovery center to help stretch you out and work on things. So yeah, and it's a great community event where,
mhm.
everyone who had done the Edge was all there and everyone's cheering each other on. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. I loved it. I love that. All right, Brendan, last question. What do you love most about your wife, Kelly?
Oh man, you're gonna get me trying. What do I love most
That's
about my
that's kind of the objective.
Kelly? Everything. I mean, I am incredibly fortunate. What do I love most about Kelly? Where do I start? She's an amazing friend and an amazing partner, and she puts up with me. So that's a lot to love. She's an amazing mother. She's an amazing human. She's compassionate and caring, and she's amazing at what she does. And so I am her biggest cheerleader because she doesn't like to talk about herself, but she's an absolute rock star in the work world and business world. She helped
What
grow.
does she do?
She's the chief of staff to the chief human resource officer at Ally Financial.
Okay.
Um, she just rolled off the board of Impact 100 Metro Detroit, which is this amazing women's collective giving organization, where it's one woman, one vote. They donate $1,000 to the organization, and at the end, the goal was to have 100 members so they could give $100,000 to an organization. When she was membership chair and president, they grew it to well over 200 members, so they were giving out two $200,000 grants. I mean, which has this amazing impact. So. Um, I mean, what do I love most about her? Her heart. She's got the best heart. So I'm pretty lucky.
How long have you been married?
17 years, it'll be 18 years on August 25th.
Wow, that's great.
So we try to do gifts along either the traditional or contemporary side. So I don't know what 18 is. I got to do some research on what that is for this August.
What was the coolest thing she's ever gifted you?
Coolest thing she's ever gifted me. Oh man. Um, I don't know. That's a good one. I'd have to think about that. I don't know. You're going to catch me on the spot.
Well, what's the
I have to
coolest thing
get,
you've ever gifted her that you think?
that's so funny. I don't remember the gifts as much as the experience. I want to say like
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite recent anniversaries
Mhm.
was we went to She-Wolf downtown
Oh, nice.
and we got seats at the bar and did the chef's table with wine pairing.
Oh,
And it was so much fun. I mean,
mhm. Those are
the
always
the
great.
staff there was great. The bartenders were super fun to talk to. We were able to, it was just the two of us, so we could talk to each other. We had the most amazing food with delicious wines paired with it. It was one of those nights where we left the car and Ubered home. But we like to travel and do things by letting the force guide us. So we don't generally have like broad sweeping agendas or plans. We just have an architecture and then just let the force guide it. And so that was one of those nights where like, I guess we're gonna do the chef's table tasting and get wine and Uber home, and it was
Well,
awesome. So
and
the
that's great,
experiences
especially
the
with the
experiences I
women.
remember more than the gifts.
The
That's always
experiences are worth it, for sure.
yeah. Now you got to think about the next one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Brendan, thank you so much for doing this. We really enjoyed hearing about everything. And it's always been fun to interact with you. So we thought we would give everybody else a chance to get to know you a little bit. Thanks for doing this, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. Michelle, thanks as always. And join us again next time for another edition of Six Questions. Dan and Michelle.
See ya.